This movie's story is about a country that has been completely destroyed in a nuclear war. All the people in this country have died, and only one girl has survived. Her name is Anne Burden. She lives alone in a valley far away from the rest of the country. The valley is the only place untouched by the effects of nuclear gas. At the beginning of the movie, we see Anne Burden searching for supplies in an abandoned city. Due to the nuclear war, the entire city is filled with poisonous gas, which is why Anne has covered her entire body with a plastic shield. After collecting the necessary supplies, she heads back home. When she reaches the valley, she removes her plastic shield and takes a deep breath of relief. She also has a dog that helps her during hunting. Anne Burden is completely alone, and living by herself in her home has made her feel very bored. In the early morning, Anne Burden went out to hunt. Suddenly, her dog started barking and ran toward the road. Anne followed him. When she looked ahead, she saw a car parked on the road. As she got closer, she noticed that the car was filled with equipment that looked like it belonged to a scientist. Suddenly, the dog barked again and ran back to Anne from the barking. Anne realized that someone was coming. She quickly hid away from the car. A moment later, a man approached the car, his entire body covered in a plastic shield. He began pulling the car along and continued on his way. Anne secretly followed him. After walking some distance, the man stopped his car, and Anne watched him from her hiding spot. He began removing his plastic shield suit. When he finally took it off, a man appeared. His name was Loomis, one of the few survivors of the nuclear war. He took off his mask, inhaled deeply, and let out a loud sound, as if he hadn't breathed clean air for a very long time. Anne was shocked to see him. When she looked again, Loomis had gone somewhere. Anne followed his tracks and found him bathing in the water. She rushed toward him and shouted, "Get out of the water! It's poisonous! It's coming from the city!" But the noise of the water was too loud, and Loomis couldn't hear her. The dog barked at him, and Loomis raised his gun in defense. Anne shouted again, warning him to get out of the toxic water. Realizing the danger, Loomis quickly got out and went back to his car. He used a small device to check his body for signs of infection. Then, he took an injection from his car and told Anne to inject him. After she did, Anne said, "Come with me to my house. You can clean your body with fresh water there." When they reached her home, Anne helped Loomis wash off all the contaminated water. His condition began to worsen due to the infection, so she helped him lie down on the bed. Then she went to his car, pulled it closer, and gathered food and medicine from an old store for him. Loomis's body temperature was very high, and his condition continued to deteriorate. The next morning, when Anne woke up, she cooked food for Loomis and gave him another injection. Several days passed like this until Loomis's health slowly began to improve. While suffering from a fever, Loomis talks about where he came from, an underground bunker where radiation suits were being made. He tells Anne that he once killed a boy who was in unbearable pain from radiation, a mercy killing. Anne takes care of him, feeds him, and slowly, Loomis begins to recover. Once Loomis fully regains his strength, he starts talking to Anne. He tells her that the nuclear war has destroyed the world. Cities have burned, and almost all life is gone. This valley, he explains, is a rare safe zone because its rain and water cycle remain pure. The two begin to adjust to each other's presence. Loomis is an atheist, but he respects Anne's Christian faith. He tells her, "God didn't do this, we did." Loomis helps Anne with the farm, planting crops and suggesting that they build a water wheel at the waterfall to generate hydroelectric power so they can run a refrigerator and have lights again. Over time, Anne and Loomis's bond grows stronger. They share meals, talk about their pasts, and open up emotionally. Loomis tells her that he used to be an engineer who designed radiation suits, but ended up completely alone. After the apocalypse, one night, Loomis drinks alcohol from an old stock and becomes aggressive. He snaps at Anne, saying, "I don't need your help. I'm fine." The next morning, he apologizes. Anne forgives him, understanding that he's struggling with deep emotional trauma. Later, Anne shows Loomis photos of her family. Loomis tells her about the boy he met sick from radiation poisoning, losing his hair and in terrible pain, so he shot him out of mercy. Anne becomes uneasy, realizing the boy's description matches her brother. Hanson, young blonde-haired. Even so, they continue living together and focus on building the water wheel. Anne begins to feel emotionally and physically attracted to Loomis. In one scene, she tries to seduce him and kisses him, but Loomis gently stops her, saying, "Not yet, we need to think about the future," because his mind is set on long-term survival and rebuilding society. In the next scene, the tension rises when Anne's dog, Pharaoh, starts barking again. She looks outside and sees another man entering the valley exhausted and filthy. His name is Caleb, a former coal miner who survived the apocalypse by hiding in a mine. Caleb explains that he was underground with several others, but paranoia and radiation drove them mad. They killed each other, and he was the only one left alive. After escaping the mine, he wandered until he found this valley, and the three begin living together. Caleb, who comes from a religious background, bonds with Anne over Bible verses and prayers. They often visit the church together. Anne plays the organ while Caleb sings hymns. Loomis starts feeling jealous as Caleb and Anne grow closer. The two go hunting together, share long talks, and Caleb makes Anne laugh. Caleb also helps with the water wheel project, using his strength to lift heavy rocks and do the hard labor. Although they live together peacefully on the surface, tension brews beneath. Loomis doesn't trust Caleb. He sees him as a potential threat. One day, the three of them spend time by the pond, drinking wine, swimming, and joking around. Caleb and Anne get flirty, touching and laughing together, while Loomis watches, fighting to control his jealousy. Loomis, drunk and emotional, tells Anne, "I love you, Anne," before passing out. Feeling troubled, Anne goes to Caleb, and the two end up becoming intimate. They kiss in the barn in a passionate, emotional scene. The next morning, Caleb affectionately strokes Anne's hair at the breakfast table right in front of Loomis, making him feel humiliated and furious. Loomis later confronts Caleb privately, saying, "You can stay, but don't hurt her." Caleb just laughs and replies, "Jealousy doesn't suit you, John." The tension intensifies over the church. They need the church's wooden beams to complete the water wheel for electricity. Loomis strongly objects because the church represents Anne's faith and hope. Caleb insists, saying, "We need power. Use it." Anne hesitates but finally agrees, realizing electricity would improve their lives, though she's deeply emotional as the church is dismantled. In the climax, we go to the contaminated waterfall to finish the water wheel. The area is dangerous, so they wear radiation suits. Caleb ties himself to a rope and climbs down to install the wheel against the current. The first time, he slips, and Loomis saves him by holding the rope. The second time, Caleb slips again. Their eyes meet, and Caleb smirks, almost as if challenging him. Moments later, Loomis returns to Anne, tells her that Caleb has left, taking his suit to travel south in search of other survivors. But Anne grows suspicious. Caleb's gear and belongings are still there, something no real survivor would leave behind. She quietly says he wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. Anne goes out to the road, calling Caleb's name, but there's no sign of him anywhere. She walks back home, sits at the table, and breaks down emotionally. In her distress, she accidentally knocks over a glass of water, which spills across her Bible, a symbolic moment of loss and betrayal. She checks the fridge and notices that the electricity is on. The lights glow softly. The water wheel project has succeeded. Loomis, however, is consumed by guilt. He stands near the waterfall, staring into the rushing current, as if contemplating suicide, but he doesn't go through with it. Instead, as an act of penance, Loomis begins moving items from the destroyed church, the organ, pews, and wooden cross, and rebuilds them inside the barn, creating a makeshift chapel. Later, Anne walks into the barn and begins to play the organ, performing a somber tune that feels like a mourning song for Caleb, for her faith, and for the innocence she's lost. Loomis quietly enters the barn and stands in the shadows. pressing his hands together in a prayer-like gesture. Anne looks up and meets his eyes. A silent understanding passes between them. The movie ends there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.